Hello, welcome back to the video tutorial series on how to make a 2D Minecraft game in C#. In the last episode, we made a yellow circle and a red circle, and we added code to make the yellow circle move around on the screen. If we press the play button here, the yellow circle, you can see that, the yellow circle and the red circle, and if you press these W, A, S, and D keys on the keyboard, the circle moves around, and if you hold the Shift key and you move, it moves faster. So, something you might notice, though, at first, is if we open up the window like this, looks like it's kind of moving a little bit slow. That's mostly just because we've got a bigger window, but also at the same time, it actually is moving slower. If I just tap this key here quickly, it moves across to that other side pretty quick. But if I make the window bigger, and I do the same thing, it's a little bit slower. So, something we want to do is we want to find a way to make it so that it can move the same speed no matter how big the window is. Right? The reason that it's moving at a slightly slower speed is because your computer needs more processing power to actually draw at stuff on a bigger window. So what we can do is we can get something called the delta time. And I'm just going to start making the variables here, and I'll explain it as I go. If we do a new double of last time, and we're going to make this raylib time, or get time here. This says this will get the elapsed time in seconds since the init window. And here, we're going to do double current time equals last time, or no, sorry, raylib dot get time, and we're going to make a new double here that says that's called delta. So double delta equals current time minus last time. And then here we will do last time equals current time. Now this delta right here is what we're going to want to use. You don't have to type in this part right here, but I'm just going to show you a bit of a test. Double test variable equals 0. And then we'll do test variable equals test variable plus delta. And then we'll do console write line test variable. And then I'm going to press this here. And you can see it's going up really fast. But if you look at this number right here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's counting up by seconds. And if I make the window bigger like this, you can see 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, it's staying at the same speed. So when I make the window bigger, it's not getting any slower. So what we can do is we can actually multiply this speed by delta. And then we're also going to want to multiply it by about 60. Just as a bit of a test at first. Alright. Because you can see it is moving very slow right now. So actually what we might want to do is multiply it by... Let's multiply it by 1,000 and see how that works. There we go, that's a little bit faster. Let's do 5,000. There we go. And now if I make the window bigger, you can see that it is still going at the same speed that it was going at before. Basically, if you want something to move at the same speed no matter how big the window is, we're going to be using this delta. So now, what we want to do, we want to be able to do something where we can actually have a player, and we want the code to be kind of like simple. All of this right now is all in this while function, but we don't want it to always just be in this big while loop. We don't want the code to just get really long, because then we're going to have to like scroll all the way up and all the way down to find stuff, and it'll just take a while. So what C# has that we can do, we can make multiple different files, and then we can use those. And before we go any further, I want to install another package that's going to be very convenient. So we're going to do this arrow here, and click on the Visual NuGet, Manage Packages, and we're going to install something called GLM Sharp. And this is going to allow us to do some extra stuff so that we don't have to keep doing this double X, double Y the whole time. What we could do instead is we will do, using up here, GLM Sharp, right there. And this will do, we can do a dvec2 of position equals new dvec2, and then in here we can do the 400 for the X and 250 for the Y. You can see this has X and Y here, right? Let's get rid of this. Now there's red underlines under here because X and Y don't exist. The name X doesn't exist, so we could do position.x, position.y, and position.x, and I'm going to press Shift. I'm going to click here, press Shift, click here, and Control and C. Control's on the bottom left of your keyboard, and then I'll click here and Control and V. That's going to paste that here. Now we can just go through here and copy this really quickly in front of all the X's and Y's. Press play. And that's going to look the same, but now instead of having a X and a Y, you have your position here. That's actually going to be very useful in just a minute. And I'm also going to remove this test variable here. Now, we're going to make something that's called a class. So if I go to the 2D Minecraft tutorial and I right-click up here, we're going to click New File, and we're going to create something called an entity. And it has to have .cs at the end of the name. And now we have a blank file. So, what we're going to want to do, we're going to start off with the word public. And the word public basically means that anything can access it. Then, the next thing we want to write is class. And a class is basically like an object that you can create multiple copies of. And then we're going to name it entity. And then we will put these curly brackets here. And inside of the entity is going to have a position, a speed, and a size. We could probably also give it a color too. So we're going to do another public, and we're going to make a dvec2, and we're going to press enter here, and that will add the using GLM Sharp at the beginning here. You can also type it in here manually, and we're going to call this position equals new dvec2 0 0. That's going to create a dvec2 at the top left corner of the screen. And then we're going to do public dvec2 motion equals new dvec2 0 0. We're going to do another one for size. Public dvec2 size equals new dvec2. Let's make this 50 and then 100. And then last, we're going to do a color. Public color. And the type of color we want, you can see there's system drawing, and then there is raylib. We're going to click on the one that says raylib over here. And we're going to call this color equals color dot, let's do red. So now we have our entity here. Next, what we want to do is we can go here and we're going to make a entity player equals new entity. And now we can do player dot position. I'm gonna select this, Control C, Control V, and move this all the way over here. And press play. Now the player's position starts up here. As we said, we have a position at 0, 0. And we can move this around like this. But what if we wanted to make it so that we didn't have to have all this stuff in this function here? All right? So let's go into the entity. And we're going to create something called a function. This is going to be another public, because we want this program to be able to access it. Like, let's say, for example, if we made, let's erase this for a second, if we made this private, the position here, you can see programs now red. Position right here is inaccessible due to its protection level. So we want to make this public, not private. So we're going to make this other thing public as well. And we're going to type in void. And then next we will type in update. And these parentheses and the bracket here. What you've just done here is you've created something called a function. So what a function can do, let's go make a couple of lines here. And right in here, we can do player.update. And if you look at this, this is very similar to raylib, begin drawing, clear background, draw circle. And now, let's select all this, right click, and click cut. Right? And then next we can go into update and press paste. And now we've got a whole bunch of red lines under here. This says local variable player, cannot use local variable player. But we have this position. If I double click on this, there's the position right here. So we can actually just get rid of this player here. You can click and drag here and then press backspace to get rid of it. But now we've got a bit of a problem as well. We've got this delta, but delta does not exist in the current context. But if we look at these functions right here, we can actually put in numbers and colors and stuff into here. And if I highlight this, you can see it says int center x, int center y, right? We can do something kind of like this in our function. So you see how this says double delta right here. If we go into the entity and we type in double delta, right? Now that red line under there's gone. But now we have a bit of an issue with the program. This update function, there's no argument given that corresponds to the required parameter delta of entity update. And you can see entity update has this double delta in here now, just like this has the int center x, int center y, float radius, and color. So what we can do is we have this delta here. We can type in delta. And now, let's press play again. And it's moving around like this. So another thing we can do, we want every character to have its own shape, right? We don't want a bunch of characters just using the same shape and then just like moving that same shape around, right? Like well, actually right now, none of the characters actually really have a shape. Like if I made another entity player 2 equals new entity, and then I do player2.update delta, right? If I press play, there is no player 2 here. We only have player 1, and it's this yellow circle. So what we can do, we can actually go in here, we can make another function kind of like this, but we're going to call this one public void render, and we're going to put the double delta in here just in case. And you can see in the player, we have this size here, and we have the position. So what we can do is we can do raylib dot draw rectangle rec. What that's going to do, that has a rectangle here and a color here. So before this, we can do a rectangle draw rect equals new rectangle, and now we have this draw rect here. And for this, we can do just right color here because we have this color here. But this rectangle's not actually going to do anything yet because we haven't actually given it any size or anything. So in here, we can type in the same thing that we did for drawing the circle, but with a rectangle. We're going to do int position dot x here. Then int position dot y, and then int size dot x and int size dot y. And so now we can go here. I'm going to get rid of this, and we will do player dot render delta and player 2 dot render delta. And then we can do player 2 dot position equals new dvec2 250 250. And that's up here after the player and player 2. So now we've got two rectangles. One's up here, one's right here. And if I start moving, both of them are moving. And both of them are moving in the same direction because for the player 1 and player 2, they have the exact same controls. A is left, D is right, W is up, S is down. So it's two different players, they're just being controlled the same way. We could add in some extra controls, but right now we're going to do something that's a little bit different. We're going to get rid of all of the player 2 stuff, And what we're going to do is we're going to make our player here, our entity, fall all the way down to the ground. So in order to do that, we have this motion here, and we have this size, right? What we can do is we can make a variable here, double gravity equals 0.5 times delta times 5,000. All right. And then instead of having this, and we're actually going to make a new public, or sorry, not public, we're just going to do a double x motion equals 0. Then here we'll do x motion equals negative speed, and x motion equals speed. Then here we can do motion equals motion plus x motion. And then right here, position equals position plus motion times delta. Now if we press this play button here, oh, we've got a little bit of an error. Position is adding this motion times delta, and this motion is adding the x motion. But this motion is a dvec2, so that's adding on to the x and y at the same time. So we can do dot x here. So now motion x, the x motion is adding to that. So now it's just moving like this. And you can see right now, it's slowly getting faster, and it's also slowing down. Well, it's not really slowing down, actually. Not yet. But we can do motion.x equals motion.x times 0.9. And that will give us friction. Let's make 0.99 actually. Now he's actually moving way slower. So let's change the speed from 0.1 to 1. There we go. Now he's moving quick, he's stopping. And now we can add gravity. So let's do if position.y plus size.y is less than raylib.height. Get render height. Press enter there. Then we can do motion.y equals motion.y plus gravity. And let's change gravity to 2. And then we'll do else position.y equals raylib.get render height minus size.y and motion.y equals 0. And now he falls to the bottom. But what if we wanted to make him jump? Well, now this part in here actually works when your character is on the ground. So what we can do is in here, if raylib.isKeyDown keyboard key dot space motion.y equals 0.1. Or sorry, negative 0.1. Now, you can see if you press space, he's kind of moving up a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but he's not moving up fast enough. So let's change that to 1. Moving up a little bit higher. All right, let's change that to, let's do 30. A little bit higher there. 100. And each time, he is getting a little bit higher up. There we go. If we do 1,000, now we've got a jumping force. And now we've got a little character that can move around and jump. And, you know, let's remove this circle here. So now we have got our little character. If we resize the window, he'll fall to the bottom of the screen here. And we can move him around here. We can make this smaller. Move him around like that. Alright. So now that we've got our character, that's going to be the end of this video. In the next one, we're going to create, or at least start making, a little world for him to walk around in. I think that's going to be kind of fun. So that's the end of this video, and I will see you all in the next one.